An ex-Special Forces soldier becomes the Angel of Death for London's underworld in someone else's identity. What will happen next with him? Hi, welcome back to Explanation Pro. Today we will recap an awesome, action drama movie called Redemption, released in 2013. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. On a cold February night in London's backstreets, two thugs terrorize homeless individuals attempting to sleep. Inside one of the cardboard boxes, Isabel warns Joseph Smith, an ex-Special Forces soldier, not to fight back as she hides the substance in her mouth. They try to flee, but the thugs stop them and grab the narcotics. When one of them starts unzipping Isabel's jacket, Joseph headbutts the thug holding him back, and they flee. Isabel escapes, but before Joseph runs, the thugs have severely beaten him. He climbs onto a building's roof, prays open a window, jumps inside, and looks around. He notices that he has landed in an expensive apartment where the owners aren't there, so he decides to spend the night. Meanwhile, one of the thugs confronts Isabel with a knife. In the morning, Joseph takes a shower, shaves his hair, and exits the flat, looking half decent. On his way out, the phone rings and goes to voicemail, where he finds that the apartment's owner, Damon, is in New York and will be back on October 1st. He then makes himself at home and assumes a new identity, calling himself Joey Jones. Then, he goes through the mail, where he discovers a newly issued debit card with the pin enclosed, so he goes to an ATM, withdraws the cash, and becomes wasted. Later that night, while traveling across London, he had flashbacks to his service in Afghanistan. Then he walks into a homeless shelter where Sister Christina, a Polish nun who runs the local soup kitchen, serves soup. He then asks her about Isabel. Christina recognizes him and inquires where he obtained the clothes, but he doesn't react. Instead, he gives her £500 and instructs her to treat herself to something nice. The next day, Christina discusses the gift with the Mother Superior of the convent, who urges her to put the money in one of their funds. Christina asks if she can keep a portion of the money to purchase something she has been praying for, and the head nun agrees, so she goes to the theater to get a ballet ticket. When she arrives, the ticket salesperson informs her that there are no more tickets except one, a box ticket for the final show on October 1st for £500. Meanwhile, Joey awakens from a nightmare and knows he's hallucinating when he sees hummingbirds fluttering around the apartment and a man dangling from the ceiling. He then goes to the soup kitchen and requests antibiotics from Christina, who urges him to go to the emergency room. He confesses, however, that he can't because he's been avoiding the court-martial since leaving the Special Forces because there will be no forgiveness for him. Christina then shows mercy and asks what he needs. He claims to have 2 broken ribs and an infection that will kill him if it gets to the bone. She promptly gives him antibiotics and pain relievers and informs him that she has inquired about Isabel. He wonders how she knew about Isabel and if he has done anything stupid the night before. Christina realizes he can't remember but doesn't bring up the £500 and informs him that Isabel no longer comes for meals. At the apartment, Joey flushes his liquor and takes his antibiotics religiously. Later, he discovers the keys to Damon's black Mercedes and drives around town, posting posters with Damon's phone number for Isabel to contact. That night, he receives a message from Isabel instructing him not to look for her and not to be concerned. She also claims to have agreed to work for the thugs for a few weeks until she gets enough money to put a home in the north. Later, a man in an expensive suit with a scar above his eye confronts the thug who pulled a knife on Isabel. Later that night, they stroll into a parcel delivery store, and the man notices 3 blondes, one of whom is Isabel. In March, it's a sunny afternoon when Joey arrives back at the apartment with groceries. Then, he makes himself a healthy drink when someone buzzes at the door. When he doesn't answer, a woman says she saw someone go in and will notify the cops. So Joey opens the door, and she inquires about his identity, to which he responds that he's one of Damon's boyfriends. He claims Damon told him to spend the summer there and get his life back together. Later, while working in a Chinese restaurant, Joey cuts up Damon's debit card. When there are problems at the Chinese restaurant, he doubles as an unpaid bouncer. One night, the head waiter summons him to eliminate a group of unruly guys. When he leaves the men outside, they become agitated, and one of them attempts to punch him. When the restaurant owner notices Joey taking care of the guys without breaking a sweat, he asks the head waiter who he is. Choi then employs him as a driver and someone to do his dirty work for him. He's making a lot of money by assisting Choi in establishing new regulations in the neighborhood, supplying substances, and collecting payments for him. One night, a delivery man arrives at the soup kitchen to bring many pizzas to the homeless. Christina knows it's not a mistake when he mentions Joey Jones paid for the order. From then on, Joey regularly orders takeaways for the homeless. In July, Joey follows Dawn, his ex-lover and mother of his young daughter, into a grocery store and gets her attention. She's enraged because he's dressed in an expensive suit while she and his kid live on £25 weekly. She also mentions that she lost her job and inquires what he's been up to which he responds he's been battling. She starts throwing things at him, but he stops her and hands her a wad of cash, telling her there's plenty more from where that came. Later that night, Christina discovers a pile of boxes and a dress outside the convent, along with a note asking her out. She then walks over to Joey, who's grilling on the street behind the Chinese restaurant. She informs him that that's weird and asks if he has any psychological issues, which he doesn't deny. She notifies him that she has news and gives him a photograph of a girl discovered in the river. She also tells him that the police approached her because they were looking for someone to identify the girl. On the other hand, Joey refuses to look at the photo, but when he does, he recognizes Isabel immediately. He then burns the photograph and settles down to eat his steak. He asks Christina if one of those wealthy men killed Isabel, and she confirms that the police believe a client murdered her. In a fit of anger, he then throws over a table, which upsets Christina. She accuses him of being a hypocrite for whining about Isabel when the autopsy reveals narcotics in Isabel's system when he's the one who deals with stimulants. Once he calms down, Christina confides in him that he gave her money and she spent it. She says she sold some of her stuff and gave him back the money. Later, the thugs are causing trouble in the alley with the homeless folks. Still, Joey is waiting for them and asks whether they remember him. When one of them pulls out a knife, he whips a spoon, and the bigger thug becomes concerned. Following that, he roughs them up while questioning them about who killed Isabel. The smaller thug describes him as a 30-something city boy with a scar above his eye. The following night, Christina wears the dress Joey bought for her and meets him at a photo gallery. She notices that he's stunned when he sees her, so she tells him that she wore the dress because it's the only one she has. She then nervously drinks her champagne and tells Joey she hasn't eaten and may pass out. She also informs him that she's there to obtain information regarding Isabel's case, and he provides her with a description of the man who murdered her. During their conversation, an agent at the private show interrupts them and asks who they are, prompting them to leave the gallery and rush down the street. Christina begins flirting with Joey since she's a little tipsy. When she asks when Damon will return, he says October 1st, the same day as the ballet concert. Then she says it's fate, and they kiss before she leaves. The following day, Joey leaves for work when Damon's neighbor approaches him in the parking lot and inquires how things are doing. She remarks that he appears to be a different person and asks whether he's entirely gay. He claims to be attracted to nuns lately, which confuses and amuses her. That night, the cops show up at the soup kitchen and ask Christina if she knows where they can find Joey. On the other hand, Joey is developing a name for himself on the streets doing Choi's dirty work, and they know his ties to the homeless. When she sees Joey later, she tells him she had to lie to the cops and that he hasn't changed. He asks her what the police said when she provided Isabel's killer's description. She claims they laughed it off because they were more interested in learning about him than investigating the crime. On the drive back to the convent, Christina asks Joey what happened when she got drunk. He's astonished she doesn't recall and tells her that she begged him to kiss her, so he did because he wanted to anyway. She then asks him why he wants to which he responds that she's asking a ridiculous question and instructs her to look in the mirror. She lets down her guard and tells Joey that when she was a kid, she murdered her gymnastics instructor. Because she was so young, they sent her to a convent rather than prison. She also tells him that she has never mentioned the story to anyone else. So Joey responds by telling her that when he left the military, he just took off his uniform and ran. At the convent, the Mother Superior questions Christina about why she applied for the mission in Sierra Leone. Christina claims that Africa has always been a part of her life plan and requests permission to move it forward because London has too many distractions. She also informs Mother Superior that she's ready to leave anytime after October 1st. Meanwhile, Joey's boss arranges for him to meet with Madame Choi. Joey inquires about violent males who pay for girls. She responds that she avoids them because they're on her violent block list. He then describes Isabel's perpetrator, and she agrees that she recognizes him. She promises to expose the man's identity in exchange for a favor. On the other hand, the man with the scar above his eye is roughing up a young woman who wasn't expecting it. Another young woman in the house hears the commotion and enters the room, where she notices the man's coat hanging outside in the hallway. She goes through his pockets and discovers an invitation to a rooftop cocktail party addressed to Max Forrester. Meanwhile, Joey goes to pick up a truck full of stowaway migrant workers for Madame Choi and delivers it to a warehouse. The warehouse employee pays him, and he asks the employee for the information he requested while counting the money. The man then states that it's on its way. Joey later receives the invitation and stares down at it. Christina goes to the park on October 1st since Joey asks her to meet him to photograph him for his kid. He claims he wants her to have photos of him appearing like an ordinarily respectable man so she'll remember him when she's older. Christina then asks if he won't see her, to which he responds that he doesn't think he'll look that way for long. She then expresses her concern and inquires why he won't appear like that, but he doesn't respond. They then go out for coffee, and she requests that Joey send her some photos so she can take them to Africa. She claims she's leaving tomorrow and wants to finish her crazy time in London with him. Joey then gives her a friendly smile. They eventually end up at Damon's apartment. On the other hand, Damon returns home and tries to unlock the door, but he can't do so since the door is locked inside. They then rush out the back, down the fire escape, and onto the street, where he assures her he has enough money in his luggage to start over somewhere. Christina, on the other hand, interrupts him and tells him that if he wants to be a good man, he must be a good man. She then embraces him passionately and invites him to the ballet tonight at 7 p.m. Moments later, Joey goes to Don's house, and his daughter answers the door, but she doesn't know who he is. He then places the money bag on the ground and tells her it's for her mother before handing her the envelope of photos and telling her it's for her. Christina, on the other hand, is waiting for Joey outside the ballet, but he doesn't appear. Joey instead attends the rooftop cocktail party, where he meets Max and starts a conversation. Max grows concerned and asks Joey who he is, but he refuses to answer and throws him over the terrace in full view of the other guests. Christina is leaving the ballet when she notices Joey passed out on the side of the road, holding an alcohol bottle. He then wakes up and tells her that when he's sober and healthy, he hurts others and begins crying. The following day, Christina opens a letter from Joey on her way to the airport. He tells her in the letter that he gave Damon the money he took plus more for rent. He also claims to have given the boys at the homeless mission some pizza money and given the police information on the human smugglers. Finally, he informs her that he was only alive for one summer and is grateful to have spent it with her. Not long after, authorities confirm images of Joey walking down a street swinging a bottle. They then warn them to approach him with extreme caution. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.